Leadership is like ice cream. What I want to do today is tell you my leadership journey and what I learned from that journey and why I feel like it's important for everyone to gain leadership skills. So let me start from the beginning here. Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, and Steve Jobs. These are people I really consider great leaders. Yet, when I was young, I did not want to be like them when I grew up. I wanted nothing but. And part of it was I grew up in Abilene, and I also had social anxiety. And I was a shy kid from a foreign country. I didn't have many friends. So in my mind, how in the world was I gonna lead people when I couldn't even interact with them? But one thing I did want to do was I wanted to help people, because growing up there was a lot of people that came into my life that helped me, and I saw that I wanted to give back and help other people. And also my mom did a lot of volunteer work growing up, so that really had an influence on my life. And so I decided to volunteer at my church. And so I would help clean, I would run the soundboard, I would help set up, help tear down. Anything they needed me to do, I would do. But notice, all these activities didn't involve interacting with people, because I was definitely scared of interacting with people at that point still. But through my volunteer work, I met a lot of people and heard a lot of stories about how people had great impact in other people's life. I heard them say, that person really changed my life. And from that time, I thought to myself, that's exactly what I want to do with my life. I wanted to be able to impact other people. So when I went to college, I went to Texas Tech University, I did something I thought I would never do. I volunteered to be on leadership, and this freaked me out. I volunteered to co-lead a small group on campus, and this involved having to go around the dorms, knocking on doors, inviting people, talking to strangers. And I wish I could say that this turned out really well, but it didn't. But there was two of us, we were co-leading. My co-leader dropped out after a month, so he quit. And now I was by myself. I was freaking out. And I was like, okay, it's okay. I put a lot of work into it, but came the first meeting, only one person showed up. I was very discouraged, very sad, and a couple months into it, I told them that I had to quit because everyone stopped coming. And I was devastated. But luckily I had a mentor that was part of that organization that really kind of helped me through my disappointment, my discouragement, and I remained with the organization helping in other ways. So the following year, I took on another leadership role as a large group leader, and what that is like a weekly church service that we have for our organization. So I was in charge of coordinating, organizing, figuring out what we were going to do, making sure that we had music, making sure that we had speakers, and making sure that we had the announcements that we needed to tell our members. And I had a team of 5 people that I was leading, and I could see that fit my style a lot more than in my first year of a small group leader. And I did pretty well, good enough to where I was nominated to be on the exec team the following year, and this team was in charge of the overall vision of the group, to making sure that we were going in a certain direction, that we knew the vision and the mission of the organization, and we were there to mentor any of the younger leaders that were on the team. So I did that all the way till I graduated. After college, I decided to give small group leading another try. I was co-leading again. I was a little freaked out again because of what happened the first time. But luckily enough, because my focus was different this time, it wasn't about the numbers, it was about the people in the group. Our group became very attractive to where we had so many members that we had to multiply into 2 groups. A year and a half later, I stepped down from that role, and along the way, I got married and got 2 kids. And now I was leading a family of my own, which is a different challenge in itself. 2 years ago, I volunteered to be VP of Public Relations here at Toastmasters, and last year I was nominated to be president of this club. Now, through this journey, I learned a lot of things, but I want to tell you 3 things I learned from this journey. Number 1, leadership, a leader is not a boss. A boss is somebody who just tells you what to do and that's it. And that's what I thought, that was my perception of leadership when I was younger, was you have this guy who's in charge and he was going to tell everybody else what to do, and he just kind of sat back in his big throne, saying, hey, everybody, get your work done, and he can take the credit. That's what I thought a boss was. But I was deeply mistaken by that. If you look here, there's a lot of other attributes that a leader has. They empower people, they're engaging, they influence people. And all of these qualities listed here, I didn't realize that was part of leadership. And so that was my first lesson. The second lesson I learned is there are different styles, different flavors of leadership. And in preparing for the speech, I had to take an assessment test. And this kind of told me what my leadership style is. And before, I didn't know they actually categorized it, but after doing this assessment test, I could really see that it fits me. I know this is hard to read, but the first one is democratic, and all that really means is I'm really a team player, and I like to work in a team where I want everybody else's opinion. I don't think I'm the top dog. I need to hear feedback from other people, and I'm not even afraid to let other people lead at times. The second one is coaching, and this is where I guess this kind of blew my mind in the sense that when I think of leaders, I think of one person leading a group, but no, you can lead one person, and this comes in the form of coaching. You can influence that person, you can mentor that person, you can help them develop the skills that they need so they can make an impact in other people's lives. The last thing I learned is that leadership skills, I think everybody should develop leadership skills whether they think they're going to become a leader or not, because this is very transferable in everything you do in your life. Here at work, we interact with groups, and even though I'm not a lead on my team, a lot of these leadership skills that I've developed, organization, communication, influence, innovation, this really helped me in my work. And so the first group you'll be using your leadership skills is in groups. The second is your family. If anybody is deciding to get married and have kids, you are influencing your spouse and your kids. You have no choice but to be a leader in your family. And so by developing leadership skills, you can use those to guide your family. The third is mentoring, as I spoke before, that leadership isn't always a group. It can be a one-on-one situation. So if you can influence one person, you are leading. It's as simple as that. So if you have close friends that you know, and you probably already do this, and you're very close, you share stories, and you're there for each other, and you encourage them when they're down, like that's all part of leadership. So I urge everyone to get leadership skills. How do we do that? There's 3 ways. There's probably more, but I identified 3 ways. One is gain knowledge. Read books, read biographies, read articles on leadership. The second is get a mentor. There is a lot of great leaders out there that know a lot more than you, and they can teach you a lot. Just like when I was younger, I had a mentor that helped me through my difficult times. And third is take a role, just do it. Just like Nike says, just do it. In order to develop those skills, you have to put that into action. You can read a whole bunch of articles, but if you don't put that into action, you're never going to gain those skills. And last, because I'm an officer, Toastmasters allow you to take an opportunity to learn leadership skills in the form of officers. And these are the 7 officer roles that Toastmaster has, and I'm briefly going to go over them. President is the person that guides, they motivate, they direct, and the VP of Education is in charge of organizing the meetings. They're in charge of any educational questions, like if you have a question about pathways, the VP of Education is the one that is supposed to be educated in that. VP of Membership, they're in charge of helping visitors become a member. So that could look like following up with them, talking to the visitors to answer any questions that they may have. The VP of Public Relations is about getting the word out for our club, letting them know that Toastmaster exists. It can be in the form of flyers, or we have an open house every year. Let's see, next is Sergeant at Arms. They're the ones that are in charge of booking a room and helping set up and tear down at the end of each meeting. The treasurer is in charge of processing all the membership payments, and the secretary is in charge of keeping all the records, making sure that our membership roster is up to date, that sort of thing. And so don't be intimidated by the word officer, because really, I did a speech a couple of weeks back to talk about all the things we need volunteer work for, and this is really what it boils down to. So right now you have 2 people doing the work of 7, and so we really need people to volunteer in order to keep this club going. So that is the end of my speech, so thank you for your time.